You're listening to the Big Cast, your source for the latest in financial technology. Brought to you weekly by the Best Innovation Group, with your hosts, John Best and Glenn Sarvati.
Welcome to another edition of the Big Cast. My name is Glenn Sarvati on behalf of the Best Innovation Group, where we like to do cool things with financial technology. And we have our annual pre-gaming episode before Money 2020. We'll be speaking to the president of Money 2020, Tracy Davies, about what's in store now for the upcoming show in Las Vegas, Sunday through Wednesday, October 27th through 30th. So please stay tuned for that. Before we get to that interview, though, let me just tell you can always find out more about the Best Innovation Group by checking out our website, big-fintech.com. I'm also going to point you again to what I thought was a particularly insightful CU Town Hall that we did last week. And it was on the topic that I've been kind of obsessed with lately, the Illinois Interchange Fee Prohibition Act, which depending on who you talk to, is either consuming all of their time or people have never even heard of it. You can I did my own kind of straw poll of people who were outside the banking and payments industry, who live in Illinois, who are college educated, who know or are very connected to their community. I was 0 for 7 in finding anybody who was even aware this was going on. Well, 2 of the people actually said, yeah, I think I heard something about that, but then described something that was in the ballpark, but not close enough to really be a fair assessment where you could really even have an opinion on it, which to me is kind of interesting because there was a fair bit of coverage given to a poll that not coincidentally was taken by the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, which claimed there was strong support among the population for this law. Your mileage may vary depending on how you take a look at that. But anyway, want to thank Tom Kane, the president of the Illinois Credit Union League, who's been as steeped in this as anybody, who joined us on the town hall and shared a lot of great information about it. Definitely worth a listen if you go out to cutownhall.com. It's the most recent episode that you can watch the replay. We also have another one coming up on October 23rd, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. That's Wednesday, October 23rd. As always, we look for participation among the group. This one is something that John Best is calling Fraudapalooza, and looking at a lot of the activity going on, scary stuff in the fraud space. And he's looking to crowdsource information and kind of get a conversation going to really try to get a handle on this and see what we can do as an industry to combat, what's clearly a concerted effort in the fraud space. You can ask for an invitation. It's free to join, but you do need to register in advance. You will also find in our show notes a very simple questionnaire, no personally identifiable information for anybody, but if you can provide and are willing to provide anonymized data for your credit union at a very high level, or if you want to go a little bit deeper, that's fine too. We're trying to aggregate that to get as good a view as possible so we can have as data-driven a conversation as possible. So take a look there. Hope you join us on the 23rd. Let me go back for a minute to the Illinois Interchange Fee Prohibition Act. A couple of things. There's been all kinds of activity, as I said. Remarkable to me, the Controller of the Currency, the OCC, issued an amicus brief in favor of the bank's position on this in remarkably strong language, in my mind. There have also been several briefs that have come in from the retailers and the restaurant associations, et cetera, actually lining, including Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, who are lined up in favor of the law that will prohibit the charging of interchange on state taxes and gratuities. The Illinois Restaurant Association, I'm going to post a link to these two. The Illinois Restaurant Association's brief, frankly, I thought was the most substantive that I've read, that actually makes a decent case for why there should be some kind of restrictions on this. The OCC, by far, I think, is the most impressive in terms of the way it lays out why this law does not make sense. But the Illinois Restaurant Association, to be fair, I think really does a good job and makes a good point that if restaurants have to pay for they're paying a fee on basically a pass-through expense when they're just collecting tips on behalf of their employees. They can make the same argument about the taxes, but the reality is that seems to always get left out of this is that the government has been paying them for that. They've gotten a tax break and a tax allowance that basically covers that. They did make some specious claims, however, in this brief from the Illinois Restaurant Associations as well, though. They pointed out, according to them, that interchange is so expensive that it tends to be the third biggest expense for restaurants after food and labor. I thought, really? What about rent? You're telling me you're paying more for interchange than you are for rent? And then they gave an example that a restaurant with $1 million of debit and credit revenue over the course of the year will spend $23,000 in swipe fees. Now that's they're not doing all their business in debit and credit, so they've actually got more than $1 million. So that's less than $2,000 a month. How many restaurants do you think have a rental bill of less than $2,000? So they make good points. That one really strains credibility in my mind. They also make a big point of the fact that so many restaurants are small businesses. Then we get back to that same question. Small businesses are going to not really be helped by this because they have to actually install new equipment. I'm not sure they have an upfront cost to actually make this happen. So I'm not buying entirely. Like I say, Durbin put out one as well. Interesting stuff. Check out the links. Follow along. We certainly will be. Let's get on now. We've caught up with Tracy Davies several times now, both in advance of the Money 2020 shows as well as at Money 2020 itself. She's always very open and very interesting, has great perspectives on this stuff. I think I've mentioned this before, but officially last Wednesday on October 9th, the deal closed. Informa, which is the company that owns Finovate, has acquired Essential, which is the company that owns Money 2020. So two of what I think of as the really marquee brands in terms of financial technology conferences, Finovate and Money 2020, are now part of the same family. And Tracy shared a few thoughts on that one, but that's secondary to everything else we got going on, and they really didn't have any factor whatsoever in the planning of this year's event. It's because of the timing of it. So with no further ado, let's have a listen to what's going on for Vegas in about a week. Tracy Davies, president of Money 2020. Here we are again, another year coming up on another whirlwind in Las Vegas, just a week or so away. Are you ready? It's gonna be fun.
Well, I can tell you, Glenn, we are ready. We're absolutely ready. I'm not in Vegas yet. I'm not that ready. But yeah, no, we are ready. And it's like an annual event, both Vegas and obviously talking to you, Glenn, ahead of the show.
I always enjoy this. Yes. And I mean, I know how, both energized and exhausted I get. And I can only imagine, because I saw you running around so much in the last couple of years. How do you prep for this? I mean, this has got to be your busiest week of the year, I would assume.
Yeah, it is. But, we do 3 of these a year. We do, obviously, as you know, Asia, Europe, and Vegas. So we're pretty match fit when it comes to this stuff. I'm not gonna lie. By Wednesday night, there will be a bit of downtime. But we get as excited as everyone. I can hear the excitement coming through in your voice, and the amount I can see it on social. Everyone's getting excited. They're all doing their planning. We get as excited as you all do, right? It's big for us. So I would say the overriding is excited and energized, but I'm not going to lie, there's some pretty good night's sleep on the Wednesday, Thursday afterwards.
The flight home, exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons for the excitement is you've always done a great job tailoring Money 2020's content to whatever the hot topics are in the industry at the time. It looks like, based on the website, you're really leading with AI this year, kind of front and center for obvious reasons. I think, and you mentioned you've got leaders from OpenAI, Anthropic, NVIDIA, and others all lined up. I'm curious, how do these agendas come together? Is this kind of a reaction to market demand, or do you kind of skate to where the puck is going, to use a hockey phrase? Do you kind of anticipate?
I love your hockey phase on a Brit there to try and catch me out. Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, look, every sort of brand like mine will tell you it leads, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think we hope we lead, obviously, in the way that we, the range of topics, the sort of surprises, and the different places we go with it. But we also follow. So you sort of have to do a bit of both. I mean, if you track back, this is not the first year we've covered AI, right? If you track back, we've been covering this probably 3-4 years, and you may even find some of the the seeds of it before then. Certainly when I looked back at some around blockchain, we were covering that very early because these topics move, right? At first it's like, what is this? What does this mean? Now we're deep into sort of use cases and what's happening. And as you said, we have got, I think, the leading brands in the world on our stages talking about the topic. I mean, here's an interesting fact in terms of how we've seen this move. 20% of all content submissions this year, we're talking about AI in them somewhere.
Wow.
1 in 5. So it's not, so, we've been covering this for a few years. All of our shows have been covering it. But, we are at critical mass moment, I think, on this topic. And we know why, right? If you look at, the industry's, how the industry's AI spending is going to shift, I think from $35 billion last year to sort of 100 billion-ish in the next sort of 5 years. So, it's a major force. So yes, clearly we're covering it. I hope we're leaders on the topic. I think the scale of the program we've put together, some of the sessions we've got show that. But, we're not just covering AI.
Sure.
We are covering a broad range. We talk to the market, we listen to the market. That we have people like Scarlett Sieber and Zach Patet in our teams. These are deep industry experts. So it's a mixture of what they know, who they talk to, bringing it together, listening to customers, and then putting it out there. But, we've got everything from, moving, first time we're covering really medical payments and the crossover of that into B2B and payments. We've got a lot of talk about how the industry has shifted, the focus on profitability, obviously around moving money, one of our core topics. But, we've also got things around crisis planning and, how's the industry planning for the next Black Swan event, because there will be one. So there's a whole range of topics that we cover. It's a big ecosystem. But I think it's fair to say that AI is a pretty standout topic this week.
You just mentioned the shift to profitability, which also kind of made me wonder. It was true last year to a great extent, but the climate, venture capital, the overall spending from a new investment in startups and whatnot has I think it's overstated to think of it as really a chill, but it's certainly down from the highs of the really heady days.
Yeah.
Has that altered your approach to how you put this together at all? I mean, obviously, like you say, the shift to profitability certainly changes and influences what people want to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely been some headwinds around funding. I mean, I think, we know that. I would say that it's very sort of stable to very positive, actually. We're seeing a lot of positivity now around the sector. But if you look at the the long-term projections on banking and payments, that they're very strong. I think McKinsey are predicting 7% per annum on banking and 15% plus on fintech. So, yes, there have been some headwinds in the past 18 months, but we definitely feel that is very stable and moving more positive. But you're right, it has led to some questioning of the fundamentals, and that sort of focus on not just top line growth at the expense of profitability. We definitely have seen a move towards that, and I have no doubt that is going to be a big talking point in that sort of move from grow at all costs. I guess you're going to see quite a lot of coverage, and obviously, there's what gets talked about on our stages, but as you and I both know, there's what gets talked about in the coffee lines and around the show, etc., etc. So I think that's an ongoing topic. We've seen that through the year at our shows, but I would say that it is looking, we're seeing a real sort of positivity on the outlook for 25.
Yeah, you just mentioned the coffee lines, and I'm always, I don't know how this differs from other kinds of conferences that take place on the same site at the Venetian and the Palazzo, but I would love to see the Starbucks receipts. The volume at that place is so nonstop, virtually 24 hours a day. I mean, I'm fascinated by that.
Well, one of my favorite things, I mean, we obviously have, great activations, as you know, on the show floor. So, one of my personal missions, obviously I'm working flat out for Money 2020, but finding the best barista is often one of my jobs during the show. So I'll happily share my inside knowledge. But, our partners do such great things on their booths, but finding the best barista is definitely one of my explorations of the show.
The other thing I think people have learned over time, I know I have, is not to make the mistake of showing up late. This is not your typical kind of slow roll Sunday and then doesn't really kick into earnest until the end of the day. I made the mistake one year of missing Steve Wozniak, who pretty much I think spoke about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday when he was there. It looks like your Sunday is jam packed yet again, and it looks like kind of topical summits are the way you've got it structured that day. Anything specific to call to our attention? I think that's
Yeah, well,
some of the conversation on AI is, right?
yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a good point. Back in the day, back, I don't know, 2014, 2015, you're right that Sunday was a slow build. I would say probably since the Steve Wozniak year, which I think was 2017, really we make Sunday Super Sunday. We call it Super Sunday. And it really does. I think, Glenn, you're arriving early. That's a good, smart move. I can see from the hotel bookings, a lot of people coming in Saturday night, which is a really smart move if you're coming in from further afar. Because Sunday starts, it starts with a bang from the get-go. And you're right, we really focus on content on Sunday because the show floor doesn't open till Monday when you get, the different experience Monday through Wednesday.
That's a really good point. I mean, I'm a content hound, and that's given that the floor doesn't open until Monday, and let's face it, this is a big networking event where I think once that floor opens and everything else, people are in the hallways every bit as much as they are in the sessions. But Sunday, that's where you really have the better opportunity to deep dive into the content.
You're right. I mean, there are very little other distractions. We do have a focus on meetings because we have our new must meets in the afternoon. We've got a Startup VC Connect in the morning, but it's really content and meetings that are about Sunday. Then obviously Monday through Wednesday, trust me, we have some fabulous content, but all that content then takes place on the show floor. But you're right, we've taken a summit approach, I guess, on the Sunday. So you're right, it's where some of the AI topic is, and we've got from hype to reality, which I think is a very good sum up of, I'd say, where AI is right now. So from hype to reality, Gen AI in banking and fintech. We've got a whole session on open banking. And we'll no doubt talk about one of our high-profile open banking speakers later on this podcast. I mentioned medical payments.
Yeah.
So here we have the crossover. We've got a whole summit on medical payments. We know that is an area that's being shaken up. And it's the first time we've really covered that in what I'd say detail. We've got a policy deep dive summit. We've got borderless payments and banking technology. So some topics in there you would kind of expect and some different takes, but we're sort of taking a summit approach. But as you know, it builds to Sunday Night Live.
Yes.
And Sunday Night Live is our big show moment. And this year we've got Lynn Martin, the president of the New York Stock Exchange Group, obviously includes the New York Stock Exchange itself. We've got Sarah Fryer, the CFO of OpenAI, and we welcome back Rohit Chopra, the director of the CFPB.
Since you teed that one up, I was curious. So that is during the Sunday Night Live, and I remember very well. Rohit Chopra chose Money 2020 to basically launch this whole Section 1033 open banking data sharing initiative 2 years ago. And here we are again. I don't know if that's official, that that's what he's going to be talking about, but I know everybody's expecting the final rule to be issued right about that time. I don't expect you to say much more than that, but you've also got, I don't know where he is on the agenda, but you've got Gary Gensler from the SEC as well, don't you?
Yes, we do have Gary speaking as well, which is a video link on Sunday into a live conversation. It's live, but by video link because he's in DC with Hope King from Axios. So look, I think what you can see there, and I'll talk specifically about Rohit a bit more in a moment, is regulators. I mean, I know we've got two other high-profile speakers as well, but I think we've seen a real, I mean, you mentioned Rohit speaking in 2022. We had Hester Pierce last year. We've got real, and not just in the US, we had the ECB and the FCA on our stages in Europe. We had a number of regulators on the stage in Asia. So we're really seeing that dialogue and that desire from the regulators to be out, publicly speaking, as you said, Rohit made obviously that announcement 2-3 years back now. And I think that's really interesting. And we're seeing a lot of media interest as well. So you will see, press conferences and huddles and lots of interviews. And Hester Pierce, I think, went coast to coast after her session last year. So that's really interesting. And I'd say that is a shift since maybe 2018, 2019, which I think is interesting in itself and sort of talks about where we're at. But you're right, Rohit is speaking, and he is talking about the future of open banking after making the original announcement back in 2022. So we shall see what he has to say.
And I have to assume, I think you've kind of said as much already, that it's become a pretty easy sell. This is the opportunity for the regulators to reach directly, and speak in their own voice beyond a press release to the exact audience that needs to be hearing these messages. So, I mean, obviously, it speaks for itself who you've managed to gather on the stage.
Yeah, I think it is, as I said, I think it is a shift and a development, and maybe reflects, the desire of the regulatory community to be heard and to be seen. And certainly, we're delighted to be that platform. And last year we had, as I mentioned, some really high profile regulators. We see that in the other editions of Money 2020, and here this year with Rohit and Gary Gensler, we have again, some of the biggest, let's be honest. We're delighted with that. And I think, the media dimension is really interesting because they're very keen to talk to the media, and the media is very keen to talk about them. And as I said, I do think it's a shift since, probably 2018, 2019. And look, we're delighted to be the platform hosting that conversation.
And it's interesting too, now that I think about it, given that those announcements are Sunday night, it hits the news cycle. So, as announced at Money 2020, you've got that right there in the Monday morning papers, which is,
we've always been the home of big announcements. I mean, I remember, back over the years, big announcements at all of our shows. I mean, as I said, Rohit is talking about open banking, and a discussion about the future of open banking.
Mm-hmm.
But, across all of our days, and all of our stages, people make announcements because there will be, look, I don't know the exact number yet because the press accreditation is still going through, but I'm going to sort of go out on a limb and tell you I'm pretty sure there's going to be 350 plus media.
Oh, wow.
Broadcast media, specialist media, across the piece. So it's, the announcement, there is a sort of flywheel of, that being where the media are, they know that's where the announcements are, they can get great interviews. And, the platform where, the industry makes those announcements. But obviously, there's also then, as we know, the meetings, the business development, because you make the announcement about the product or the partnership. And you also need to sort of sell that through and do the business. And we are the place where money does business. So it all sort of fits together. But we do love a good announcement, yes.
Yeah, so we mentioned, so Sunday is really the heavy content. I mean, not that the other days aren't, but you do have the exhibit hall floor open on Monday, Tuesday. I believe it closes on Tuesday night. And then Wednesday, we're back. You've got a half day set up, and you've really focused that one. I think you said you did this last year as well. It's kind of Marketing Wednesday. So you've really taken the focus down again to one specific track of marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the show floor is open Monday morning till the show closes around 2-ish on Wednesday. So the show floor stays open the whole time. And for those who've not been to our show, it's sort of mixed in, if you like. So we've got the booths, we have all of the content, all of our stages are on the show floor. You have, as you know, Glenn, all the food and beverage offer, the coffee, as we've already talked about. So everything is in one place, including our Connections Lounge, where, thousands and thousands of meetings get done. But you're right, and well spotted. On Wednesday, and we did this in last year, 2023, and we're doing it in 24, we sort of created Marketing Wednesday. There are, hundreds of marketeers on site coming to the show, and there's such a big topic, really, about the competitive advantage, the brand storytelling around marketing. And, obviously, this is a highly regulated industry. Marketing in highly regulated industry comes with its own challenges. So this is really a program customized and tailored to senior marketeers working in, on and in the financial services space. So we had really great reaction last year. So we're delighted to bring it back and make it bigger.
Makes sense. The other piece of information that kind of doesn't directly relate to this year's show, but announcement came out over the course of the summer that Informa, another UK-based company, is acquiring Essential, which is the parent company of Money 2020. I did see that transaction did close just last week.
It
Like I said,
did, yeah.
I can't imagine it really had any impact on the planning of this year's show. But anything you can say about what that might portend for the future?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It hasn't had any impact. Only went through last week, October the 9th. Informa PLC, another powerhouse in B2B events, acquired Essential PLC, the owners of Money 2020 and Capital. So that's the official speak, and we become part of a new division called Informa Festivals from the 1st of January 2025. So I think, that will be Cannes Lion, Money 2020, and, the sharp-eyed amongst you will know that includes Finovate. So Finovate Money 2020 now in the same organization. And, it's really exciting. I think the team are really excited. Informa is uniquely placed to provide us with a global platform to keep doing what we do. So we're well advanced on 25 planning already. So it just brings opportunity and excitement for us and our customers, I think.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Finovate. We do a lot of coverage, and I think of those as kind of my two anchor tenants in my schedule for the conference world. The September event at Finovate and Money 2020 as well.
Good
And
to hear.
I was not as familiar with the Cannes Lion Marketing Festival out in Europe, which it sounds like it's even much larger than I realized. So that was
Yeah, I mean,
a fascinating piece of the puzzle.
yeah, no, I mean, Cannes Lion, the Lions Festival business is a world leader. It's the Festival of Creativity. We just talked about marketing. If you work in, marketing and brands and that space, it is, it's the event. And the centerpiece of that is the Lion, the awards program they run, which is, just world class. We're really lucky to have them as our sort of sister brand, if you like. We're 12 years old, they're 71, I think, years old. So, we've been together a long time, and we both now head into our new lives as part of Informa.
Last year, one of the things, and it's not payments related, but music related, your 50th anniversary of hip hop dance party on, I guess it was Tuesday night, with Grandmaster Flash, Spinderella, Reverend Run for Legacy. I think you set the bar pretty darn high. That was personally my favorite of the things you've done as far as industry nights. I know you've got En Vogue lined up. They've got that pretty challenging task of trying to keep that momentum going. Anything there, or any other new features that you're particularly excited about to mention?
Well, we always look forward to our industry nights. We've got obviously Sunday Night Live. We talked about, that has an industry night dimension, and we go to Money Row from there. On Monday night, we're at Tao, so we have a big night, and then Tuesday night, we now have, the follow-up with On Vogue. So I think that will be another fabulous evening. And our view, this is a very serious industry. There's lots of important topics to talk about, lots of people to meet, but, there is a dimension of, bringing a fun piece to that networking and what we do. And those events are much loved. And as we all know, with lots and lots of networking. And we talked about the coffee line, but, could be the cocktail line as well.
I'm always amazed when I talk to people who are, kind of part of the planning process of these conferences, how many people register like the last minute or literally even at the show. I don't know what that looks like in terms of what kind of walk-ups you get, but we're getting down. It's like, I think we're recording this about 10, 12 days out from the show, but it's still not too late, right? People still wind up making the trek.
Absolutely. It is definitely not too late. I mean, I would love everyone to have bought their tickets by June, July, but they are buying all day, every day. And it's a global show. I know it's in Las Vegas, but as you know, people fly from all over the world to Las Vegas for Money 2020 USA. But no, it is not too late. And I'd rather you buy them beforehand, but yes, you're right. We do have a lot of people who walk up and buy their tickets as well. So it's never too late. And the great thing is, even if you register the day before, you can get the app, You can connect with every delegate on site, still setting up meetings. I mean, it is good to be planned and come in planned, but you always need to leave some space for the people that you bump into, would be my one of my top tips.
And anybody who wants to find out more for now, money2020.com, pretty straightforward.
Always money2020.com. And, you know, we look forward to welcoming everybody there. And Glenn, I look forward to seeing you again for our annual meetup in Las Vegas.
You as well. Tracy Davies, president of Money 2020. Going to be fun. I'm going to start resting up now. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
So a couple things to follow up on there. Rohit Chopra from the CFPB. That's a big deal in my book. It was interesting to me. I think I, again, made this comment a couple weeks ago that 2 years ago, Rohit Chopra was on stage basically launching, and then concurrently with that putting out a press release that pretty much started this whole Section 1033 data sharing, open banking, killing screen scraping, etc. initiative. It's been 2 full years, and I kind of thought everybody's been saying it's about the time that this is going to come to a head with the final rule being issued. I think the timing's way too coincidental. He just showed up on the agenda. They just added him in the last week or so. I don't know this. I've got no inside information, but I've got to believe that's what he's going to be talking about. So to me, that's going to be the marquee event on Sunday night at the show. Another one that I'm looking forward to seeing is Pays, the digital wallet brought to you by the same company that brings out Zelle, Early Warning Systems, owned by a lot of the large banks. They've been in market doing some pilot work and really slowly kind of trying to build momentum, but they've still, for the most part, been running under the radar. They are going to have a pretty decent presence at Money 2020, including bringing Emmitt Smith to their booth, the NFL Hall of Famer. So I'll be very curious to see what they've got. And then, of course, I did a story last year that basically summarized the history of Money 2020 in 3 T-shirts, showing kind of the various eras of what's been going on. Everybody's favorite being the Jesus Loves Bitcoin T-shirt from a few years back at the height of the blockchain and Bitcoin craze. Given what we're talking about this year with AI, T-shirts seem to have kind of fallen out of favor. I don't see quite as many of those at the show. It's more socks these days. But I'm wondering if we'll have something from an artificial intelligence standpoint that kind of continues that trend and maybe creates the fourth era in Money 2020. We'll find out soon enough. And of course, Vogue, as we talked about, and because I can never resist any puns from a musical standpoint. Rohit Chopra on stage maybe want to leverage one of their big hits and kind of re-paraphrase it as free your data and the business will follow. And then maybe the bankers may reply defensively with their own version of never gonna get it, never gonna get it. That's the last time you'll hear me sing on this podcast. That's it for today. We've still got plenty to come in the next couple of weeks, including events right directly from the floor of Money 2020. Stay tuned. Always check us out every week. New content every Tuesday. Wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, etc., or directly at the Best Innovation Group website, big-fintech.com. Subscribe, whatever it is that whatever that outlet asks you to do. We'd love for you to keep in touch with us and love for you to drop a note, let us know what's going on and what you're thinking about these topics. You can always find out more about the Best Innovation Group, big-fintech.com. You can find us on LinkedIn at Big FinTech, on X. John Best, our Grand Poobah, also on LinkedIn. And at Big FinTech, at JB FinTech. You can find me, Glenn Sarvati. I'm talking way too much, so I'm going to stop right now. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you soon.
Check back each week for the latest from the Big Cast. Or better yet, we hope you'll consider subscribing for free via Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet us at Big FinTech. Email info@big-fintech.com. Or visit us at big-fintech.com and click on the Media tab, where you can post a comment or check out our archive of hundreds of past episodes. See you next week.